The silliest deaths in history. In a world of constant scientific revolutions, every theory has to be tested. But sometimes those tests push people straight into the grave. And that's where today's stories come in. People who contributed to history, but checked out of it in the most bizarre ways possible. Jesse William Lazier, death by mosquito. In the late 1800s, yellow fever was a nightmare. It caused fever, vomiting, internal bleeding, and could kill you in less than a week. Entire American cities shut down during outbreaks, and no one knew why it spread so fast. Cuban physician Carlos Finley proposed a simple but radical theory in 1886. Mosquitoes were the carriers. Tiny bugs were ending lives on a massive scale, but at the time, the medical community thought diseases came from miasma, bad air, or direct human contact. Finley's theory was dismissed as laughable. Enter Jesse William Lazier. Born into a wealthy Maryland family, he became a doctor, specializing in malaria and yellow fever. In 1900, he joined the U.S. Army's Yellow Fever Commission in Havana. Instead of just studying patients, Lazier decided to test Finley's theory himself. He deliberately let infected mosquitoes bite him. Within days, he was bedridden with yellow fever. His organs shut down and he died at age 34, leaving behind a wife and 2 children. Lazier's death proved mosquitoes were indeed the culprits, leading to mass mosquito control campaigns that finally curbed yellow fever. His sacrifice changed medicine forever, though in hindsight, testing deadly theories on yourself probably isn't the best career choice. Captain John Kendrick, Cannon Fire Soup. John Kendrick was as American as they came. As a young man, he helped dump British tea into Boston Harbor. He fought in the Revolution as a privateer, capturing enemy ships. After independence, he became an explorer, co-leading America's first expedition to the Pacific Northwest. He even helped establish the fur trade and set up sandalwood trade routes from Hawaii to China. By the 1790s, Kendrick was respected as a seasoned captain and businessman. But Hawaii was no paradise. Island chiefs were constantly at war, and foreign captains often backed different sides. In 1794, Kendrick aligned with one Hawaiian chief, while a British captain, William Brown, supported another. The fighting ended, Kendrick's side declared victory, and he decided to celebrate. As was tradition, he fired his cannons in salute. Captain Brown, ever the gentleman, returned the honor. Unfortunately, one of Brown's cannons wasn't loaded with blanks. A spray of grape shot ripped through Kendrick's cabin, killing him instantly as he sat eating turtle soup. After a career of exploration, battles, and trans-Pacific trade, his end came not from war, but from another man's careless salute. Jack Daniel, kicked by a safe. Jack Daniel, the man behind the world's best-selling Tennessee whiskey, lived his life surrounded by barrels, bottles, and booze. He learned the art of distilling as a boy and founded the Jack Daniel's Distillery, which still bears his name. Jack never married, had no children, and poured all his time into whiskey. But in 1911, he made a fatal mistake. One morning, frustrated that he couldn't remember the combination to his safe, he kicked it hard. That kick broke his toe. The injury developed into a severe blood infection, what we'd now call sepsis. Modern antibiotics didn't exist, so within weeks, the infection spread and killed him. Jack Daniel, a man who lived among flammable barrels of alcohol, didn't die in a fire or distillery accident. He died from stubbing his toe too hard. Today, the company still shares the story, with a wink as if to say, don't get mad at your safe, drink instead. Gary Hoy, the window trick. Toronto lawyer Gary Hoy was a senior partner in a top law firm in the 1990s. Brilliant in corporate law, well-liked by clients, but best remembered for his party trick. Gary loved to show visitors how unbreakable his office building's glass windows were. On the 24th floor, he'd run full speed into them, bounce off, and laugh. He'd done it many times. On July 9th, 1993, giving a tour to law students, he showed off again. He sprinted, slammed into the glass, and bounced back. Applause, laughter. Then he did it again. This time, the glass didn't shatter, but the frame popped out of the wall. Gary Hoy was thrown out, falling 24 stories to his death in front of horrified students. The law firm never recovered its reputation and closed within a few years. Gary, a top lawyer, became remembered not for his legal victories, but for proving that gravity always wins. Frank Hayes, the dead jockey. Frank Hayes was a stable hand in New York in the 1920s. Too heavy to be a jockey, he was given one chance if he could lose weight. He dropped 12 pounds in a few days through extreme dieting. By race day, he barely qualified. On June 4th, 1923, he mounted Sweet Kiss, a horse with low odds. Against expectations, Sweet Kiss surged ahead in the final stretch. Spectators cheered as Frank leaned tight against the horse's neck. They crossed the finish line first. Then came the twist. Frank was dead. His heart had given out mid-race, most likely from stress and the sudden weight loss. He was still slumped over the horse as it won. At 22 years old, Frank Hayes became the only jockey in history to win a race while dead. Sweet Kiss was nicknamed Sweet Kiss of Death and retired retired immediately, as no rider dared mount her again. Clement Vallandigham, the lawyer who proved his case, fatally. Clement Vallandigham was a 19th-century American lawyer with a flair for theatrics. In 1871, he was defending a man accused of murder. The case hinged on whether the victim had shot himself accidentally or been killed deliberately. To prove the possibility of an accidental shooting, Vallandigham grabbed a pistol during the trial, explaining how the victim could have shot himself while drawing the weapon. Unfortunately, the pistol he used for the demonstration was loaded. He pulled it from his pocket, discharged it, and shot him in the stomach. Vallandigham died hours later. Ironically, his client was acquitted, thanks in part to the demonstration that killed him. Talk about commitment to your job. Perry Mason has nothing on this guy. Franz Reichelt, the Flying Tailor. Franz Reichelt was a Parisian tailor in the early 1900s with big dreams. He wanted to invent a parachute suit. Planes were still new, aviation was risky, and a parachute you could wear like a coat sounded genius. In 1912, he got permission to test his invention from the first deck of the Eiffel Tower. Officials assumed he was going to drop a dummy wearing the suit, but Reichelt insisted on testing it himself. Wearing his bulky parachute suit, he climbed onto the ledge, waved to the crowd, and jumped. The suit immediately collapsed around him. He plummeted 57 meters, 187 feet, to his death in front of horrified spectators and news cameras. Today, the footage still survives, showing him standing proudly one moment and hitting the ground the next. Proof that not all fashion statements are meant to take off. Basil Brown, death by carrot juice. In the 1970s, health fads were everywhere. Basil Brown, a British health food enthusiast, took it to an extreme. Obsessed with cleansing, he drank carrot juice and vitamin A supplements constantly. In just 10 days, he consumed the equivalent of 10,000 times the recommended daily dose of vitamin A, mostly from carrots. His skin turned bright orange, and his liver failed. He died in 1974 from carrot juice poisoning. So yes, Basil Brown overdosed on vegetables. Proof that even the healthiest food, taken to the extreme, can kill you. Bugs Bunny would not approve. Chrysippus laughed to death at a donkey. Chrysippus wasn't just any philosopher. He was the third head of the Stoic school of philosophy in Athens, around 200 BC. He wrote over 700 works on logic, ethics, and physics. A man who believed in reason, calmness, and the mastery of emotions. The irony? He died in the least Stoic way imaginable. The story goes that Chrysippus saw a donkey eating a basket of figs. Being a man of wit, or what passed for wit in ancient Greece, he turned to a servant and said, "Give the donkey some wine to wash it down." He found the joke so hilarious that he started laughing uncontrollably. The laughter triggered a seizure or suffocation, and he dropped dead. His students, no doubt devastated, had to record that their master, the pinnacle of Stoic rationality, was literally killed by his own sense of humor. A man who taught others to conquer joy, anger, and fear, ended his life conquered by a donkey eating figs. Adolf Fredrik of Sweden, the king who ate himself to death. Adolf Fredrik ruled Sweden in the mid-17th century. He wasn't a particularly strong monarch. Historians often describe him as weak and indecisive, but he did have a passion for fine dining. In fact, he's remembered more for his stomach than his policies. On February 12, 1771, he sat down to a feast fit for 10 kings. The menu: lobster, caviar, sauerkraut, smoked herring, champagne, and then dessert, specifically semla, a sweet cream bun served in warm milk. Adolf liked it so much he didn't stop at one. He ate 14 in a row. After the binge, he collapsed and died of what's recorded as digestive problems. Swedish history books don't call him the king of reforms or of war. They call him the king who ate himself to death. His son Gustav III inherited the throne, while Adolf Fredrik became a permanent cautionary tale about portion sizes. Hans Steininger tripped on his own beard. Hans Steininger, a 16th century Austrian burgomaster, essentially a mayor, had one claim to fame: his beard. Measuring over 4.5 feet long, it was so impressive that he often rolled it up and tucked it into a pouch to keep it out of the way. In 1567, a fire broke out in his town of Braunau am Inn. In the chaos, Hans rushed to help, but forgot to secure his legendary beard. While fleeing down some steps, he accidentally stepped on it, tripped, fell, and broke his neck. He died instantly. The beard that had been his pride became the reason for his downfall. Today, the town museum still displays Hans's beard, preserved as a bizarre relic. Visitors come to see the facial hair that literally killed its owner, a reminder that sometimes vanity is not just a sin, it's a health hazard. Draco of Athens, smothered by gifts. Draco, a 7th century BC lawmaker, was famous for introducing the first written code of laws in Athens. These laws were harsh, so harsh that we still use the word draconian to describe overly severe rules. For example, stealing a cabbage could earn you the death penalty, but Draco's end was the opposite of harsh. At a theater performance on the island of Aegina, he was adored by a massive crowd. According to custom, admirers threw cloaks, hats, and robes as tokens of honor. At first it was flattering, then the pile grew bigger and heavier. Draco was buried alive under the weight of his own fans' gifts, smothered not by enemies, but by people who admired him too much. The man who gave Athens its harshest laws was killed by excessive love. Proof that sometimes the crowd really can kill you with kindness. From scientists proving theories with their own lives, to captains killed mid-soup, to whiskey moguls losing to a safe, to lawyers proving their point fatally, to tailors who thought they could fly, and even health nuts who drowned in carrot juice. History is full of people who checked out in ways no one could predict. It's a reminder that death doesn't always come from war, plague, or disaster. Sometimes it comes from showing off, experimenting, or just being way too committed to a point.